A frequent visitor to In the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics, is Duke Tobin, Executive of the Year for the Cincinnati Bengals. And we're talking draft. The NFL draft just ended. It's a 3-day national holiday now. You know, it's incredible. A lot of work all year long that goes into the draft. You're grinding. You know, you have protocols. And then the draft comes, and it's like Christmas Eve. You're going to get all these presents. And then a couple of weeks later, you have a rookie mini camp, and boy, unwrap the presents, see what you got. Duke Tobin is the point man in that entire process. And we talk about the philosophy of all of that sort of thing in part one of a 2-part series with Duke Tobin, and the influence that his father, Bill Tobin, who did unbelievable work for the Chicago Bears. I mean, they put together a dynasty in Chicago, and he did the same thing in Indianapolis and had some big successful runs there in Indianapolis with the Colts as well. So the Tobin family knows their football from a personnel standpoint. We're going to find out why. Thanks for joining us once again in the Trenches with Dave Lapham, brought to you by First Star Logistics. And as always, we're emanating from our outstanding studios here at First Star Logistics. And the draft is completed. It's a 3-day national holiday now in the National Football League. The draft has become an entity unto itself. 10 million people on Thursday night watched the draft in some way, shape, or form. It drew more than any NBA playoff game. It drew more than any Major League Baseball World Series game. I mean, Duke, the NFL draft has become crazy. And by the way, we're joined by the Executive of the Year, the Cincinnati Bengals, Duke Tobin. And it's amazing what the draft has turned into over the years, isn't it, Duke?
Yeah, I guess if I would have known those numbers, I would have dressed up a little more than I did. But it used to just be a bunch of guys in a room grinding through a long day, and now it's become prime TV watching. So it's good for that.
I know your dad, Bill, who's still active and does a great job for the Cincinnati Bengals, was involved in, the draft, putting together the Chicago Bears, the Indianapolis Colts, the great teams that those franchises enjoyed. I mean, he must just be like, wow, to see all that he has seen over the years in terms of not just the draft, but the evolution of the National Football League itself into, United States of America's most popular sport by far, has to be mind-boggling.
Well, it's changed an awful lot. He recognizes that the process has changed, the scouting has changed, the draft itself has changed, the league has changed. I wouldn't say he's on board with it all changing for the better.
Right.
I think he would still prefer some of the old ways to what we have to deal with today. But yeah, he's seen it all. There's no doubt.
I know that you've got a tremendous amount of respect for your dad, obviously, as everybody in football does, and you couldn't have had a better mentor. If you had to pick one or two things that your dad, gave you like little pearls, little nuggets of wisdom as you were working your way toward the role you're playing now, what might those be?
The number one thing is, if you're going to have an opinion, do the work. And if you haven't done the work, don't have an opinion. And he really respected scouts and the work that scouts did if they had done the work and done all the work. What he didn't respect was scouts who did a little bit and had a big opinion. And he still is put off by that even today. If you're going to want to factor in the opinion of a player, do the work, do all the work, and make sure you know everything there is to know about the guy. So that's the number one thing. There's a lot of quick, instant opinion guys around the league and around our business, and he doesn't have regard for anybody's opinion that hasn't done the work and has the qualifications to know what he's looking at. And so, number one, have the qualifications. Number two, do the work.
And boy, you've put together a staff that is all about that. I mean, your guys put in the work. They have each other's backs. The cross-checking that goes on is just extraordinary. And, when you make a selection, it's the Cincinnati Bengals selection. It's not one guy's opinion. It's the Cincinnati Bengals collectively deciding after everybody, has their opinions and thoughts on a guy and hashes it all out, make that selection, correct?
It is, and that's what we want in our guys. We want when the player comes into the building, he's everybody's pick. Everybody's on board with it. We've had the discussions. People have stated their opinions, and when the decision's made, he's everybody's pick. And there's again a lot of people that like around the league to reach out for individual credit for this guy or for that guy, especially after the fact. But around here, when we have success with a player, it's due to a lot of people's hard work behind the scenes in uncovering that player and grading that player. So it would be somewhat embarrassing for anybody around here to say that was my pick, because it's everyone's pick and everybody factors in it.
So with that said, I know you value every draft pick because the Bengals, and every team in the National Football League can, in their history, unearth a heck of a player in the 6th round, 7th round. There used to be 17 rounds. When I get drafted, it was 17 rounds, and the Bengals had 5 additional picks. I was a pick as a result of the trade with the Saints. I was the 61st pick of the draft, and that was as a result of the trade with the Saints the year before. So, I know you value every pick. So how difficult was it for you in this draft to move up twice? That's the first time it's ever happened in franchise history, to move up twice and, have to give away those late picks I know that you covet so much. What was that internal tug of war like for you?
Conflicting, I was congratulating myself and hating myself all at the same time. I don't like giving up picks. I hate that. And every time, like you said, you give up one, you give up a chance at a mid to late round guy that can really have an impact on your team, whether it's a Geno Atkins or a Marv Jones or a TJ Hushmanzada. There's the list goes on and on and on. You want to have those picks for those guys. In this draft, it didn't fall that way for us, and we felt like we were going to be dropping down a whole level of player if we didn't get to the ones that we were, at the back of the round looking for. And so it just necessitated the need to do that. And but yeah, I'm still conflicted about it. You never know if it was necessary. You put a lot of work into figuring out whether it might be necessary. Right. And at the time and still now, I think it was necessary, but it's not something I enjoy doing or like doing. I'd rather collect picks than give them away. But in this particular draft, this particular year with our particular team, it made enough sense to go ahead and do.
A common theme in this draft was speed. Every defensive back you took, 4.38, 4.38, 4.36, number 1 time in the 3-cone, number 2 time overall in the 3-cone. Not just straight line speed, but functional football speed where they can run and then stop and then sink their hips and cut. And was that something that before you went into the drafts, like, look, we want to increase our overall team speed, or did it just turn out that way and so be it?
Well, we never go into the draft looking for slow.
True.
So I'm not sure this was any different. We were always looking for speed. Bigger's better, stronger's better, faster is better,
right.
More athletic is better. And we were afforded the opportunity to take some guys that were high level in those areas. And so that was good. You don't always get the opportunity to take high levels, and sometimes you have to go ahead and accept, maybe a little less in one area or the other. But the guys that we ended up having access to that we liked all had those traits, and that's certainly good.
The other thing that was a common thread, and you guys have done a great job in this from a overall character standpoint, football character standpoint. A lot of these guys, because of COVID, stayed in school an extra year, and they just didn't take advantage athletically, academically. A lot of them have degrees. A lot of them are working on advanced degrees, working on a master's degrees. And it seems like everybody you took was a captain or a 2-time captain. In one case, a 3-time captain. So captaincy was a big deal. Position versatility, football IQ. I remember my first coach, Paul Brown, there were many Paul Brownisms, but the first one one of the first ones made an impact on me. He got up and he said, and he'd call you out in a team meeting, so-and-so, we had to dumb this down because of you. You don't have the football intelligence for us to do this. And all 10 of your teammates do. Because of you, we had to dumb it down. And now we can't do what we can do with the other people because of you. And you're not going to be around here long. We're going to go get a smart football player. So he was all about, intelligence, raw intelligence, and equally important, probably more importantly, football IQ. And you seem to have drafted a bunch of guys like that.
Yeah. Normally the guys that are made of the right stuff bubble up to be leaders of their teams at some point in college, whether they're named a captain, but they're leaders of their team because they're built to the right stuff and they enjoy the game, and that resonates with the people around them and it resonates with their coaching staff. So that is a trait that we value. Does he enjoy football? Does he enjoy the process that comes with football? And does he enjoy the people that he's around because of football? And we're looking for yeses on all those answers.
So is that the biggest intangible? Does the guy love football?
I would say yes. Yes, you can work around some other things, but if he's not enjoying what he's doing, and if he's only doing it because it might bring him something, and he puts up with it because he wants some other thing, then that's normally a guy that has a chance of not maximizing himself in our football league.
It's incredible because as I think back, I can remember teammates that were unbelievably gifted. They could give two darns about football, and they flamed out. It was like they couldn't hang. They just couldn't sustain. And then guys that had enough just to get by, but worshiped football, and those guys had long, productive careers. There's no question that part of it, that intangible, is massive, man, massive.
Yeah, it's hard to figure out. You got to do a lot of research on guys. Talk to a lot of people that have been around them. Nobody is going to come into an interview with you and say, "Well, yeah, I sort of enjoy it, but not really." I love the money that comes with it, and gee, I think this might be a springboard to my music career or something. They don't come in and tell you that. Right. So you gotta figure it out, and so it's we put a lot of effort into trying to figure out what really makes the players tick.
In that regard, obviously coaches are, a big avenue, a big resource for that. But what other, do you go to cafeteria workers? Do you go to trainers? Do you go to equipment managers? People that have been there for quite a while, and they can compare and contrast. This guy is like this guy who had, just a great career, not only with us, but after his collegiate career. How far do you probe into, and how deep is the dive on trying to find out about guys?
It's as deep as we can get, and it's dependent on the school. And we've got different contacts at different schools, and some schools allow you access to some and not others. And so we've been doing it long enough to where we know who to go to and who to trust at the schools. But you can get it from talking to their teammates. You can get it from talking to coaches on the other side of the football. If you're looking at an offensive guy and you're talking to a defensive coach, you can get it from the strength coaches. You're looking for consensus. It comes across with the way the guy plays. You already suspect the answer by watching him play football. You suspect what answer you're going to get, and then it's nice to get the confirmation.
Dave Lapham here, and every day I am grateful for my experience to have played professional football. As a player, I realize self-motivation, leadership, and appreciating your teammates are key. At First Star Logistics, you can use those same attributes to create the life you want for you and your family. Build your future by working hard like I did. You'll see results both on and off the field. Call First Star Logistics today and be part of our winning team. Opportunity knocking.